You knew this was going to be a hell of a chapter when Sanji fans stormed to Twitter and made sure everyone knew how much of a, quote, L, unquote, Zoro took. I mean, come on guys. He took one attack and made a strategic withdrawal. You can all chill out. Aside from a new addition to the Sanji-Zoro rat race, we got a very mysterious line from Queen about the Tobi Roppo. Specifically, Queen says he's taking one of them out personally. Now, I say this is mysterious, knowing damn well it's gonna be Drake. I mean, would it really be anyone else? Better not be Ulti, or else all those Zoro and Sanji fans are gonna band together to cut that out real quick. But just for the sake of argument, I'll explain why it's not the other Tobi Roppo before I discuss what this fight will look like and why I think Drake will need to join the Straw Hat Alliance. Before I get started, make sure to comment below with your thoughts on who you think Queen wants to kill. I'll be doing more discussions like this one every week, so make sure to comment below so I can talk with you beyond the four corners of the video. Now, looking at the Tobi Roppo, let's just go through each one and consider whether there's any reason for any one of them to be taken out. Generally speaking, Queen said he would be doing this personally, so I have to think whoever it is gave him a very good reason for this. Otherwise, why bother taking them out in the first place, right? Plus, it's gotta be something shady that this Tobi Roppo did and didn't want anyone to know about. If this member had blatantly gone against Kaido, then why wouldn't Kaido or one of the Calamities just kill them on the spot? In other words, Queen doesn't want this Tobi Roppo to know that he knows what they've been up to. So assuming there's some duplicity at play here, we can pretty much just start by knocking Ulti right off our list. I just don't see any reason to take out Ulti. Ulti has no problem talking smack right to Kaido's face, and Kaido just takes it. So I'm not really sensing any behind the scenes shenaniganry from her. We can pretty much cross off page 1 for the same reason. There's really nothing to show why we should question his loyalty. He seemed pretty happy to attack the city as he was ordered. In fact, he even explained the reasoning behind that mission when Drake was all like, "Oh, this sucks, why do we have to do this, I hate my job." Based off of what we've seen, there isn't anything to suggest page 1 has any reason to be acting behind Kaido's back. Now let's take a look at Who's Who. Who's Who used to be a captain of his own crew, but this alone doesn't suggest anything other than the fact that he's just an independent dude. One thing that should be noted is, when we first meet him, he asks who would be the next Calamity if Queen were to die. Which, by the way, is how you know he's a boss. Just sitting there like a mobster, like, it'd be a real shame if some, unfortunate circumstances would have befall our dear friend Queen, God forbid. But I really don't think much of this line, considering this kind of behavior seems to be encouraged in Kaido's crew. Remember, the Tobi Roppo were literally just offered the chance to fight the Calamities and replace them. So wanting to replace superiors doesn't seem to be frowned upon in the crew. Now, I can't imagine Kaido would put up with any backstabbing, but there's nothing to suggest this is what Who's Who had in mind. So with Who's Who off the list, let's move on to Sasaki. Sasaki, like Who's Who, used to be a captain of his own crew. And we can see this by the fact that he's probably the most ambitious out of the Tobi Roppo. In chapter 979, we see Sasaki say that he won't drink with scrubs and will only drink with Kaido. Here he makes a distinction between the strongest member of the crew and everyone else, suggesting that Sasaki is someone who is primarily concerned with strength. This is only a small hint, but it seems to be the case that Sasaki is the kind of guy who is always trying to get stronger and only respects strong people. Like a Bakugo type of dude. So, like Who's Who, I think we can safely cross off Sasaki, since he seems like his only concern is directly challenging the Calamities. Finally, we have Black Maria, who we simply don't know enough about. Black Maria has had a few lines, but that's it. She's been relatively quiet compared to the others. Plus, the only crime she's guilty of is being drop dead gorgeous. So, unless that's a hanging crime in this here county, Black Maria's off the list. So looking at the Tobiropo, right now there just isn't anything to suggest that any of them would go behind Kaido's back and betray the crew. In the absence of such evidence, Drake is obviously our safest bet for who Queen is going to kill. The irony, of course, is that we know exactly what Drake is up to. He's working for Kaido so that he can feed information to the Marines as a member of SWORD. We also know from chapter 955 that he hides away in the poorer towns like Ebesu so that nobody is around when he contacts the Marines. Seeing that Drake seems to be pretty careful about covering his own tracks, the question becomes how Queen, or any of the leading members for that matter, could have found out what Drake was up to. Well, if you recall the Batman from Act 1, who the anime strangely decided was a godly master of hockey, this member picked up on Suru's comment about Orochi and the Paradise Farm. This grunt heard Suru as soon as she made her comment, and this led to the whole mess of Act 1. So here, we have an example of Kaido's crew carefully listening to everyone in Wano with dictator-like omniscience. There's also plenty of other ways Drake's identity could have been leaked. The Oniwa Banshu might have spied on him, the Yakuza might have overheard something and reported it, Queen might have spotted Drake's suspicious behavior on those same cameras he used to watch Big Mom, etc. There's also the possibility that one of the Tobiropo learned Drake was a spy, considering that they seem to work pretty close together and might have coincidentally overheard one of Drake's calls. Now, obviously, these are all just possibilities, and no single possibility is stronger than the other in terms of evidence. But taken together, we can see how Kaido has a tight grip on Wano, and that it's really not hard for information to come his way. Since this is true, then what likely happened was, through one of these many avenues of information, Drake revealed his true intentions while someone was listening in on one of his calls, and that info made its way to Queen and the other leaders of Kaido's crew. So now that we've seen why Queen is probably aiming for Drake, we can finally talk about what this fight is gonna look like. Personally, I'd love to just see Queen break out his funkiness and beat down Drake like it's 1975, but unfortunately, I don't see funky freshness being the deciding factor of this fight. First, let's just quickly go over each of their abilities. Right off the bat, we know they have very similar devil fruits. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not exactly a paleontologist, but Drake can turn into an Allosaurus, while Queen can turn into a Brachiosaurus. With Drake, we know he uses a rapier and a ridiculously looking axe and fights in close combat. We also know that, as a Tobiropo, he's one of Kaido's strongest members right before Queen and the other calamities. So considering Drake is likely close or maybe even equal to strength with Queen, he's gonna want to flex his swordsmanship right off the bat when Queen fights him. But I don't think this is how Queen will try and take him out. Remember, Queen is planning to take Drake out by making the first move. Plus, as we saw in Udon with Luffy, Queen enjoys toying with his enemies. When Luffy was fighting in Udon, Queen placed him in the explosive collars and then later drowned Kid and Killer so that Luffy would give up the fight. Luffy tried starting a one-on-one fight and punching Queen, but Queen quickly deflected it and showed almost no interest in continuing that fight. This instance with Luffy suggests that Queen would rather stack the odds against his enemy, especially by using his gadgets and plagues, rather than fight the person one-on-one. Considering Queen's past behavior and his habit of tinkering with traps and plagues, and the fact that Queen will want to surprise Drake and make the first move, Queen will likely stack the odds against Drake like he did with Luffy. Assuming this is true, Drake will likely lose the fight without any help. Queen's traps and plagues are pretty much a guaranteed kill once they take effect. For example, with the Mummy Plague, Chopper had to race to get an antidote because Luffy was on the verge of death. If Drake has to deal with a similar trick from Queen, odds are he's guaranteed to die if he has to fight by himself. But this is where a possible alliance with the Straw Hats comes in. Once Queen makes his move, that's it for Drake. He'll be called out for betraying Kaido, and all of Onigashima will be his enemy. Once Drake is placed in this tough spot, he'll have to either survive on his own or team up with the Straw Hats in order to stay alive. Now, we're never explicitly told what Drake's mission is in Wano, but at the very least it seems like his goal is to take down Kaido. He talks with Kobe about how the Navy won't be stepping in, and also says he doesn't like the implication from CP0 that the world government is dealing with Orochi's government. If Drake has an issue with the world government making deals with Orochi, it's probably because he's trying to take down Kaido and Orochi and thinks the world government will get in the way of this. So at the very least, Drake probably wants to take down Kaido's crew. Seeing as how he's going to be on his own very soon, and that he has a common goal with them, there's plenty of reason for Drake to team up with the Straw Hats. Doing so would save his own skin and help take down Kaido like he wants to. How exactly this would happen is unclear, considering Onigashima is already pretty chaotic, but I imagine a close-by Straw Hat will jump in to save Drake when he's about to be killed. But until this fight happens, we're gonna just have to wait and see. Anyway, that's it for this discussion. Hopefully we learn more about this fight in the next chapter. If you enjoyed this discussion, then make sure to like the video and support the channel. If you'd like more One Piece discussions like this one, then subscribe to the channel so you can follow along with future videos. Thank you for watching, and I hope to hear from you soon.